Hi, it's Pastor Chris popping in with a quick reminder that if you like this video, it would be a huge help if you could share it with your friends. That will help more people see this video and find our other videos and hear the good news of Jesus Christ and get to know our community here in DeWitt a little bit better and maybe even find a community for themselves. So thank you very much for sharing what we've made here with the people who you know and love. And now, on with the video. So I've told some of you this story before. Way back when I was in the process of becoming ordained, that process of becoming clergy, I had to meet with a committee, a group of people who would question me and evaluate me and judge me to see if I was the kind of person who should be allowed to become clergy. And I don't remember the exact context for this, but at some point during these conversations, I told them that I, remember, not yet a pastor, had presided over communion a couple of times. One time I had done that with someone who was ordained. They said the words and I broke the bread. They said the words and I poured the wine, and then we served the people together. One time I was providing pulpit supply for a friend of mine, and they had communion, and I said, "Hey, I'm not ordained. Are you okay with it?" And he was like, "Yeah, no, that's fine. You can come. You can preside over communion. Don't tell anyone." And when I told that to this committee that included clergy, a couple of them said, "Well, if you feel like you can just go around presiding over communion, why do you want to get ordained at all?" And that struck me as a really weird kind of question. Like, the thing about being ordained is that we get special powers, that we get a list of things that we reserve for ourselves. Only we can bless bread and juice. Only we can pray before meetings and meals. Only we can preach the gospel. Only we can do these things. And that is something that has always bothered me. That division, these steps between this chancel and you, the congregation. Because when you get down to it, I don't believe in that difference. I don't have any special powers. I don't have anything that is reserved for me and that is mine alone. We are in this together. And our scriptures today remind us of that. Both of our scriptures today, and I'm going to bring in a third one really quick in between them. So our first scripture is that story of the first Pentecost. 50 days after the resurrection and a while after Jesus ascended to the heavens, the disciples were gathered in one place. And they were, I think, a little nervous. Things were going strangely. They weren't so sure about where they were going or how things were going to work out or what was going to happen next. And then, in this moment, tongues of flame appeared and settled on them, and the Spirit entered them. And they started speaking in other languages, and people around them thought that they were drunk, and they had to point out that it was 9 a.m, little early to be drinking. But the thing that I want to focus on today is that Spirit didn't just land on Peter. It didn't just land on the person who was ostensibly leading things as best he could. it landed on all of the disciples. Everyone got a piece of the Spirit. A little bit later, in a reading that we had a few weeks ago, but that isn't on today, Peter was called to go visit a Gentile named Cornelius. God said, go visit this guy. Tell him the gospel. Tell his household the gospel. Let them know what is up. And so Peter went and met Cornelius, a stranger, a Gentile, someone who was not part of Peter's community, and told him the gospel, and the Spirit fell on all of his household. It didn't just belong to Peter or the disciples. It didn't just belong to Cornelius, who was in charge of that household. It landed on everybody. It belonged to all of them. And today, in our reading from Romans, Paul is speaking to a community of Christians who he does not know. They are strangers. They are far away from him, and he is reminding them of the Spirit and that they all have it. Every single one of them. It is there, in them and among them and around them, working for them. When they can't think of words to pray, the Spirit is praying for them with sighs too deep for words. When they don't know what to do, the Spirit is calling them forward into God's design for them. When they are feeling lost, the Spirit is finding them and bringing them home. The Spirit does not just belong to Peter. It does not just belong to Paul. It does not just belong to the folks who are ostensibly in charge doing the best they can. It is for everyone. And of course, I am saying all of this because this is my last sermon before I go on sabbatical. That means that I've been here for a little while. You are a very kind and loving church who honors that commitment to give a pastor a sabbatical after 5 years. And if I have done my math right now today, I have been the pastor of this church for 5 years and 3 months and 10 days. That doesn't seem like a long time, but we've done a lot in that time. We did some visioning exercises when I started. We developed a statement of identity and purpose. We redid the bylaws. We had 2 years of a pandemic. We have welcomed new faces and new friends. We have said goodbye to old ones. We have been through a lot in 5 years and 3 months and 10 days. The other thing that is important about that number is that out of the 40 or so settled pastors of this congregation, whose names we know, who we have records of, only 10 have made it that long. Fewer have made it even longer. The reason that we offer a sabbatical is because it turns out that 5 years, 3 months, and 10 days, even if it doesn't sound like a lot, can be a lot. And so we hand our clergy a time of rest and renewal and restoration, a time to reconnect with the one who is the reason we got into this. And we've talked about that some, but that makes it sound like the sabbatical is another one of those things that's just for the clergy, a special thing for the pastor that only the pastor gets. And that's not quite right. See, the sabbatical is also for you. Now, it is true, I don't think most of you are getting the next 3 months away from all of your responsibilities. I think you should. We should set that up for everyone. But it is this opportunity to reconnect, to find out how that Spirit that has been touching your lives for so long, that has been in you and among you and around you, that has been praying for you, that has been calling you forward, that has been guiding you home, how that Spirit is doing that now. Without someone like me standing a little bit in the way. It is a time to explore and experiment. A time to see how the Spirit is calling, how it is falling afresh on you, how it is remaking the world among you and through you. And then when I return, we can talk about how we take what you have found and we can move forward together. You see, the Spirit is not just this thing that is out there. All of creation is groaning to be born. All of creation is groaning to be made new. And that includes this congregation. That includes each one of you. That includes all of us. So while I am gone this summer, I would like to ask you to be mindful and to be open to the ways that the Spirit is making something new through you, and how you can help the Spirit make that new thing. And when I say that, I don't just mean think about the things that you like to do, or the things that you feel like you are supposed to do. But reach out and discover those ways that the Spirit is calling you into true, real newness. Take a risk. Do something crazy. Try something that is wild and maybe a little dangerous and absolutely full of grace. That we together might be renewed. And that when we come back together and are together in person, we all together might bring something new into the world. A little bit more of God's reign of love.